When I think of culture and the world around us, what comes to mind are all the things that make a society unique. How they view their purpose in life, what brings them joy as well as what offends them. What it means to be who they are and what it means to be where they are from. When you're trying to understand a new culture you're experiencing for the first time, I think it's very simple to get an understanding. To me, you are what you eat. The word culture comes from the Latin cultura, meaning cultivation. Civilizations existed as nomadic, wandering tribes until humans learned to farm the land and domesticate animals for food. We no longer had to wander. We could settle villages that would grow into cities. This meant that we stopped traveling and interacting with other groups. These new civilizations would grow up independent of one another and develop unique ways of life. Naturally, these cultures would also create distinctive dishes based on the foods available to them. Cities by the sea would eat fish, while more inland settlements would eat grain, vegetables, livestock. Hot, wet, and hilly meant you planted rice. Now, despite the fact that you can get almost any food, any time of the year, anywhere in the world, food culture lives on in every society on Earth. Sometimes, two cultures will get together and share their way of life, and sometimes one culture will adopt the ways of another. A great example can be found in the cuisine of France. The French originally preferred very common food, peasant food, one-pot dishes like stews. This changed in 1547 when Catherine de' Medici, a noblewoman from Italy, married King Henry II of France. Italy had a reputation as the finest cuisine in Europe, France the worst. When Catherine moved to the royal palace, she brought chefs with her, creating a food revolution felt to this day. Around 200 years later, French inns would start serving soups to weary travelers as they passed through their towns. These soups were known as restoratives, or in French, restaurants. And then there's Delmonico's. This may be the most influential restaurant in the history of mankind. They had developed famous signature dishes like lobster Newburg, chicken a la king, eggs Benedict, clam chowder, baked Alaska, and of course the Delmonico's steak. These are great dishes, but their contribution to universal food culture was the development of the a la carte menu. Before Delmonico's, a restaurant would serve a single set meal, usually 3 to 6 courses like a prefix. Now, for the first time, customers could order any one of a number of dishes at any time. It was another food revolution. Frequent diners like Mark Twain, Charles Dickens, and Oscar Wilde all wrote about Delmonico's. And it certainly had its impact on the movies as well.
Calling from a booth in the Hotel Delmonico.
Where'll it be tonight, Delmonico's or the Plaza?
That little nook at Delmonico's.
Look, we're going to Delmonico's for supper. Won't you join us?
We'll see the shows at Delmonico's and we'll close the town in a whirl. And we won't...
Well, Clarence, if you're going to Delmonico's with us, you'd better get dressed.
Am I going to? Jiminy.
Join me at Delmonico's on Sunday instead. I'm having a nice oyster supper in your honor.
Lunch at Delmonico's.
Trust me on this. Anyone can go to Delmonico's.
I'll tell you where, at Delmonico's in New York about 2 months from now with Olivia on my arm. And I won't be wearing any blue suit either, bub.
Food can identify a culture as much as a culture identifies with its food. Such as the unmistakable street vendors in Thailand, where here, the world-famous Bali Guling, or roasted suckling pig of Bali, the weekly roast brings an entire community together. Here you see the communal styles of Ethiopian cuisine. Everyone shares from the same plate where food is scooped up in a spongy bread and eaten by hand. Bavarian beer halls offer food, beer, and a band. This is where the idea for communal tables comes from, and now they're all over New York City. This may look like a Chinese fishing village, but actually it's Cuba. Chinese laborers settled here in the 1800s to help build the railroad and other infrastructure. They brought their cooking culture as well, and now barbecue in Cuba is cooked in what's known as a china box. Speaking of barbecue, it is actually one of the few cooking styles found throughout the world. There are a few examples that are as serious as jerk is throughout the Caribbean, though. Whether it's fresh caught fish, pork, or the famous jerk chicken, nothing says you'd hit the islands quite like a rum punch and an order of jerk. Another example of cultures colliding is found in Vietnam, where France was an occupying force for 80 years. With them, they brought cooking techniques and food, and the two cultures developed the beautiful banh mi sandwich, a personal favorite of mine. French bread and meat topped with Vietnamese vegetables and condiments. Amazing. You will find the theme of food and cooking in great works of fiction throughout the world. From Joan Harris's critically acclaimed Chocolat, a story about change, clashing cultures, and subversion, to Anthony Bourdain's shocking tell-all, Kitchen Confidential. Food is used as a metaphor, a catalyst, or as a device to reach a reader with a familiar treat. The dishes might differ, but the imagery of your family's favorite meal is universal. Food can be found in poetry as well, like in this recent work by poets Nicole Acosta and Veranda Marine Shepherd.
I've been enjoying an oral fixation with two men simultaneously. One named Ben, the other Jerry. You taste like a late-night guilty pleasure, a chocolate bar beyond the measure of fun size. Your thighs are like ham hocks, your hips are like lamb chops, and that buttocks to make vegans question their preferences.
Oh. Grocery store shopping in the meat department. Is there an Englishman in the building that can fill my nooks and crannies? Is it me or do brie and cum taste the same? Maybe I need a harder cheese whiz. I had a pink fairy once. It came with lots of yogurt. I'm a foodie, but food flows through me, and I guess it ends up in the ocean or some shit. I just had some smartness. Most burgers worth eating cost more than the temporary happiness easily wiped off with a napkin. The things that fill me with a lifetime of joy are $10 or less, so I guess some nights I will go hungry. Dig in the rubble of raw emotions and shape them into something edible for your ears. We could feed a family of a zillion with this one. We only need a couple of loaves and fishes to swim with us. I got a recipe book, and in this recipe book are sweet words and savory ones.
Like sweet nothings, whispered over plated somethings meant to cream my panties. Wine me, dine me, superficially buy me the way you would a pastry at checkout. Check out relationships for sale and on clearance. Dress me up like a steak. It'll take an hour and the better half of your paycheck. They say the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Never implies he's gotta love you, does it? Even if it wasn't implied with the meal he's eating. As if feeding off your ego, as far as we know, simply doesn't satiate. Maybe he's truth dose intolerant.
Or diabetic. So I can't sugarcoat anything for him, so I will be his multivitamin. Take me in the morning or evening, but never water me down. If this is meant to work, we need to stay potent and pungent and satiate all the senses. Let him know that a home-cooked meal will always carry more value than anything he can buy out there.
Than anything he can buy out where ratings are shamelessly put in windows where they've got to let the world know how good they are. Not when he's got a 5-star right at home. No one wants to end up watching food porn alone.
Books, music, plays, poetry, art, and movies. You will find food as a recurring theme in all of them. Food is culture, a great symbol of the strength of our diversity, as well as a catalyst for bringing people together. Like Berlat Savrin said, "Show me what you eat, and I will tell you who you are." Food for thought.